Well, holy flippity flip flop flap and smokes, everyone. Beijing has grinded to a near halt as China's capital enters into more and more lockdowns. We have just got some more breaking news that the situation in China has gone from bad to worse. Their economy after 2 years is still going to lockdown, and residents have had enough and unrest is starting to rise. And people, if you think this is only going to hurt China, no, this is going to hurt all of us, because again, China is the factory of the world. We've got some more news what's happening with the big factories in China, with the workers doing huge protests, and ultimately this means that the supply chain issues that they said were going to be fixed are going to get worse, and this is going to lead to more and more companies leaving China and finding alternatives, which is going to mean inflation is going to get much worse, because building new factories in other countries is a lot more expensive, or bringing manufacturing back home is much more expensive as well. So again, everyone, we all need to pay attention to this. So let's not waste any time, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get straight into the news, the facts, and the data. Well, like I said, everyone, Beijing grinds to a near halt as China's capital city battles COVID with more lockdowns. Now, there's been a lot of hope and a lot of optimism in the markets, especially in China, that maybe China will end its COVID zero policy, or that lockdowns are going to end. They've recently shortened their time of isolation to 7 days, and this created a lot of hope in the markets. They're thinking that China's going to reopen again, it's going to boom, the economy is going to boom. Well, no, people, they're still going down the same path, and there's still going to be significant pain with China's economy. And yes, the real estate market is still collapsing, but China's government is trying very hard to keep that covered up. Listen to this. More and more apartment compounds in Beijing on Friday forbade residents from leaving for at least a few days. You constantly hear of someone going into lockdown, and you have this constant feeling that you're going to be next. It was not clear how many people were affected at a city level and to what degree stay-in-place measures were being enforced. Well, people, I don't know about you, but I've seen the footage come out of China of these residents that have been in these lockdowns, of these workers in these iPhone factories that have been forced, pretty much slave labor. They're forced to stay there, work 24/7. They're not getting paid. They're not getting the right medical care. They're not getting food, and they are furious. Check out some of this shocking footage that's happening in China, which the China government is desperately trying to censor. So this is showing that the residents have had enough. But of course, our most favorite man in the world, Klaus Schwab, he's praising China and saying that every single country or every single developing country needs to be more like China and use their policies. Listen to this.
I respect China's achievements, which are tremendous over the last over 40 years since the opening up and policy and reform policy came into action. I think it's a role model for many countries.
So that's right, everyone. Dr. Evil here wants more and more countries to adopt these draconian measures. Like I was saying earlier, everyone, the central government this month sent an encouraging signal to investors about future reopening by trimming quarantine times, among other changes, but the zero COVID policy itself didn't change. Right now, we're also in a situation where bars, restaurants, and gyms, all of them were closed last night, she said, adding that businesses' owners are frustrated by the lack of notice. She said the restrictions mean some workers have had to sleep at factories only to find they aren't able to get food delivered. So again, people, the situation that these workers are in is absolutely crazy. And it's quite funny how all these billionaires and these CEOs in the West are so woke. They try to talk about equality, doing good for people, fair pay, human rights, great working conditions. Meanwhile, they've got literally slave labor happening in China, where people aren't getting food, they aren't getting medical care, and they're locked down in these factories and they're forced to work crazy hours. But like I did a video on Sam Bankman-Fried, he said this is just a game the woke Westerners play to make everyone like them, and how it goes along with the ESG movement, so they keep getting the funding from the banks. So this is going to be a major blow for the global economy, everyone, because China is the second biggest economy in the world, and they are facing huge losses. And people, you can't trust the data they're putting out. They're putting out data to say their GDP is booming, their retail sales are booming. Well, I don't buy that at all. How can that be happening when they're going into lockdown after lockdown and people literally can't spend money even if they wanted to? What this is really going to lead to, the truth is, China's economy is going to crash, and we're going to see major companies fleeing China, especially maybe some of the press gets out on how Apple treats its workers in China. Maybe they'll bring some of their factories back to the US, hopefully. but again, that will make inflation worse. And this is the end of what's called globalization. They've been able to offshore a lot of their production over the past 30 years to make the cost of goods stay down compared to what they should have gone to. So this has helped keep inflation suppressed, but now we're going to see the opposite of globalization. We're going to see nationalization, and this is going to make inflation much, much worse. So if you think the Federal Reserve is going to stop now, if you think things are bad now, everyone, it's about to get even worse. And look at this, everyone. People are actually more scared of going to these quarantine camps, not COVID. Going out in the capital city of Beijing means having to scan your QR code to enter venues like shops and restaurants, or to even take public transportation. Under the country's contract tracing surveillance system, visiting the same place as someone who later turns up infected can land you in a government isolation facility where conditions can be so poor that some people say they're buying chamber pots and portable tents in preparation. So again, everyone, this is the policies and future we face if the World Economic Forum gets their way. They are praising China, saying this is so great what they're doing. I don't know about you, but I can't imagine being loaded up onto a bus and taken to a government quarantine camp. And again, with these QR codes, this is another way for the government to track your every step. And this is what the West desperately wants to implement, but we have to resist it while we still can. Because even here in Victoria, in Australia, they've got these quarantine camps as well. But everyone, what do you think about all of this? Let me know down below. Now, for all my loyal viewers and subscribers still watching, you're awesome. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.